Okay, so we're back to it. I think I've got this whiteboard thing figured out. Okay, let's. What I'll do is I will share my entire desktop this time so that you can see everything that's going on. Okay, so this idea of what we left off with was to be able to take the output from one process, redirect it instead of sending it to the screen, redirect it as the input to another process. Okay, so basically, if we look back at here, if we look back at this whiteboard idea, okay, so here, we have this process that's going to have an input, right? And then we're going to have an output from the process that normally would go to the screen. But what we're going to do instead is going to send it directly into the input for another process. Okay. And we can do that over and over again. Like we don't have, it's not just this, right? So this would be so much better if we were actually at a whiteboard, but so we can keep doing this over and over again. So process 1, process 2, so process 1, process 2, process 3. And we could take this final output and we can even send this, it can either go to, it could go to the terminal, right, and display some stuff. It could go to a file. It could go to, we could send it to the trash, right? Poorly drawn trash can, but you get the idea, right? So we can take these processes and take the output from one, send it to somewhere else. Take the output from that, send it to somewhere else. Take the output from that and do something else with it, all right? So what we want to do is we want to say, okay, well, how do we do that? Let's go back over here. All right. So instead of using that redirection operator, that greater than symbol, now what we're going to do is we're going to use this pipe. Okay. The pipe, this is the word for this character, the term for this character, we often refer to it as a pipe. So perfect, right? It's for a pipeline, right? So what's going to happen is, so like in this example given here, the ls command, right, is going to take, it's going to list the contents of the user bin directory. Normally, what would happen with this? Normally, we would see this displayed on the screen, but instead we're going to take that that output and sort of like redirecting it, but instead of redirecting it to a file, what we're going to do is we're going to redirect it as the input to the less command. Well, the less command, what it does is it displays stuff to the terminal one screen at a time. So if it's a really long set of information, normally if we would do this ls user bin directory, and it would just display and it just scroll, right? But the less allows us to be able to see it on the terminal one screen at a time instead, so we can kind of scroll through it. Okay. All right. This is another example using that ls command. We can list, right, the stuff in the folder that we're currently in. Then we can pipe that to the wc command. Remember, the wc command was for word counting. All right. So, but with the -l, we're saying count the number of lines. So ls would normally list the contents of the directory. The pipe says take the contents, take that information, send it to this word count command with the -l option, so count the number of lines. And the only thing, and then what's the output of this? The output of this is the number of lines in this information that it just got sent and it's going to just send it where? The output of this is to the terminal. Okay. All right, so here we can use the pipe along with the redirection command, redirection operator to say, okay, take the LST, the ls-t, so list, right? Only look at the first 10 lines of that. So the pipe of this is going to be, so the output of this is going to be sent to the head command. The head command -n says only look at the first 10 lines. And then the final result of that is the first 10 lines of this is going to be sent to this, right? Sent to this file. Okay? And as its name implies, the 10 last changed files. What happens? The ls-t is going to say like the most recent the timestamp, based on timestamp, right? So we're looking at the last 10 changed files because this is going to send us in order files that are changed, right, based on timestamp. The head will tell us the first 10, so therefore the most recent 10 changed. We're going to send that to an output file. Okay. Now, one thing is, okay, let's go back to the whiteboard for a second. So notice that in this this example, the only thing as far as constructing pipelines and doing redirections and stuff like that, the only thing that ever can get displayed to the screen is this guy, right? This, let's convert it to red. This, right? The way that this is set up right now, the only thing that could get displayed to the screen would be this, right? At any point, if we take the output of a process and send it to the screen, it's lost for any other purposes, right? We cannot take the way that this is constructed now. We cannot take the output of this process, send it to this process, and also send it to the screen at the same time, right? We cannot do that, unfortunately, the way that this is constructed. But I'm sure that you would, as I would, think that that would be very useful, right? It would be very useful for us to be able to send the output of one of these processes to the screen and also as the input to another process at the same time, right? Well, guess what? We do have that. So let's go back and take a look. All right. And this is what's called the T command. Okay. So if we look at this here we are taking ls, all right? We're taking the output of that list and we're sending it to this saved output file, right? But there's nothing going to the terminal. So to do this pipe, the output of this, it's already been redirected to this file, so nothing gets sent to the less command. Okay. If we did it the other way, if we did ls pipe, so pipe that to the less command, all right, the less command wouldn't be able to send anything to this output file. Okay, it's just lost. It goes to either one place or the other. Right? But the T command, we can use that to be able to both send our output, send our standard out from this process, send it on to another process, and send it somewhere else. Okay. So if we look at this in a graphical format, the T command is saying, okay, I want this. Let's do green. I want this output. Yeah, I still want it to go here. I still want it to go here. Okay. But I also want it to go somewhere else. Okay. And that could be the screen. Or it could be let me see the symbol for file. Or it could be a file. Okay, it could be either one of those. Okay? If we think about it, if you think about it like this, is the T is kind of a command itself too, where it's what's inside of that T process is to both display to the screen and also send its output onto out somewhere else as well. Okay, we kind of think about it as the T is kind of its own process. All right, so we'll call this the T process. Okay. Yeah, the handwriting was bad in person. It's even worse on this. Okay. And part of that process is to both display stuff to the screen, okay, or a file, and also to send its output out as well. Okay, if we kind of think about it that way. Okay. All right, so that's the T command. So here, if we look at it using a pipeline and T command here, okay. So here we're taking that ls-l, we're pipelining it into the T command. The T is going to save it to this file, and it's going to send it on to the less command. Okay. All right. If T is used at the end of the pipeline, then the final output will be both saved to a file and output to the terminal. Okay, so again, here, T. If the T is the final command, it's going to be not only sent out to the terminal, but also can be put to a file as well. Okay. All right. So let's see. The other thing is okay. Remember we talked about the special file location that's called /dev/null. That's kind of the trash can. So the truth is that every place that output can go is considered to be a file, a device file. Okay. So what that means is that if we do the tty command, what we'll see is what is the terminal device file location. So if we display it here, okay, so here what this will do is take that output of that ls command, we'll pipeline it into the T, that T location, so it'll be going to two separate places. The first place it'll go is going to be to this file location. Well, what is this file location? It is the screen. So this would be actually the way to send it to the terminal, and then it pipelines the standard output also to sending it as a mail, as an email. Okay, so email it to this if the mail server is set up, then it will send it to this email address, but it will also send it to the screen as well. Okay. Important, you cannot use the merged redirection operators in order to do through a pipeline. Okay, so if we want to use a pipe as part of it, we have to use this. Okay. All right. Moving on. So that ends, I think that ends section 1, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So then this would be just a quiz that you guys can, again, these will be available in the class materials folder, okay, along with their solutions. Okay. So one thing we want to also discuss as part of this creating and manipulating text files is we want to be able to edit them. Okay. Now, you guys have experience using things like Notepad and Microsoft Word and stuff like that, I'm sure, to be able to manipulate text files, right? But if we're just in the command line, we want a way to be able to edit text files with the Vim editor, okay? So Vim basically is a command, so we'll use the VIM as a command, and then we will pass it as a command line argument the file that we want to edit. Okay, so we'll get right into it. Go ahead, we'll read through it, but really the way that we're going to learn this is through practice. Right? So what we'll do is we'll do a practice session also in just a moment. What I'll do is I will go through the document here quickly, finish that up. We'll take a break, and then when we come back, we'll go through all of this, the redirection operators, the pipelines, the editing files with the Vim editor. We will do that using, and then the graphical editor as well, and then we will look at examples of that in the third hour, okay, in the third class time. All right, so let's go ahead and finish this. So I is how we insert. So when you first open the Vim editor, you get to see the document, and there's stuff you can do, and we'll talk about that. But the way that we can start typing text, if you just start trying to type text like you would in a notepad document, things are going to get kind of because especially if you hit a key that does something special. Okay, the Vim editor is really it's made so that you can do a lot of like line copying and other things pretty quickly, whereas the notepad is more so you can like type in text pretty easily. Okay, so the graphical editor, and we'll see a version of that because there's a gedit over here as well. Okay. So if we want to insert new text into there, by typing, we need to hit the I first. So I is for insert mode. So we press I, we move into the insert mode. We can start inserting text. We escape to get out of insert mode. So I to get into insert mode, we can type our text, in our edit mode. We escape to get back into this command mode. Okay. V is for visual mode. Right, so we can select multiple characters for text manipulation, for moving it, for copying it, right, and stuff like that. Okay, so that's how we get into that visual mode. So V gets us in, V gets us out as well. Okay, and then finally, this colon is extended command mode is the way that we save and quit. So here, colon, again here if we do colon WQ, that's for write and quit. Okay, so when we do that, WQ, write quit, it ends our Vim session, it saves the file. Okay. So we'll do this. I'll do this demonstration again in the third hour where we're going to open a file. We're going to, just do some different things to manipulate the file, and then we're going to write and quit the file. Okay, we can quit without changes since the last write using this Q bang or Q exclamation point. Okay, all right. So we'll look through this example. Sorry, like this whole like yank input, so we can take a block of text and change where it is very quickly and easily and stuff like that. Again, I think the best way to learn this stuff is to see it done in action. But unfortunately, the way that the VM, the virtual machine, worked last week, it didn't seem to work well when trying to share the screen with sharing other things as well. So I won't do that today. All right. So we'll go through this practice. I'll do it here today as part of the third hour. I would also like you to do it in your own time as well. Okay. All right. Just 1 second. I have to go do something. I'll be right back. Okay, so for those of you who are used to editing files with more of a graphical editor like a notepad, then you can use this gedit command. So if we type in gedit, again, with using a file name, using a file as an input to that gedit command, okay, then it will open this graphical editor. There's other ways to open it as well. We can do it from the menu, right from the, oh, what's it called? Where you can open up the applications, like even where we open the terminal window, okay? So we can do it that way. We can create a blank document, file new. This works just like a notepad or slimmed down Microsoft Word, okay? So it'll be something that you'll be pretty much used to, okay? Okay. Copy text between windows. You can click and hold, click and highlight text, copy, paste, Control C, Control V, all those things, right? Okay. So again, this is going to be for the most part pretty easy for you. It's going to be what you are used to. Okay. So we can select some text, copy it into a new location, paste it into a new location, all this kind of stuff, right? So again, this is for the most part going to be what you are used to. The Vim editor, again, I shouldn't say anything about one being better or worse than the other. The thing with the Vim editor is that you're able to do certain things within the document a lot more fast, a lot more quickly than in like a normal text editor. Okay, so that's what makes it useful. Okay. All right. So again, just like what you're probably used to, for those of you who know these quick keystrokes, Control X to cut, Control C to copy, Control V to paste. So you cannot do that within a terminal window. Control C would actually terminate the current running process. All right, so you don't want to use that to do that within a terminal window. All right. To copy and paste within it, you need to use that Control Shift C and Control Shift V. So again, if we're inside a terminal window and we hit Control C, it'll terminate the process, right? And then it can mess you up, all right? So yeah, let's see. Again, we'll go ahead and do this guided exercise as well, this practice during our next session. Actually, we probably could go ahead and do that now. I didn't realize it was only 10:50 right now. So we could actually just go ahead and do this and probably be done for today at about 11:20, about an hour early. I'm assuming most of you would be okay with that. All right, so we'll go ahead and go through this example. And then what I would want you to do is, in your own time, you could do that today with our third hour that I don't think we'll be meeting after all. To go ahead and do the lab. Again, the lab, you should have access to that through here, through the HTML resources location. I think you should have lab. If not, let me go ahead and take a look here. You should have access to the lab link. Come on. Yes. I need to load than I was expecting. Okay. Okay. So if we go to chapter 4. Yeah. Okay. I'll just go to the end of this thing. Just go to the end. practice, but I'm with that lab. Yep, there it is. Okay. These should be the same. This and this should be about the same. Editing final lab.text, final lab.text. Yep. All right. So what I'll have you do is go ahead and do the lab today after this class session ends, and just follow along with it and do the tasks that are in there as well. Okay. You have all the practices as well. Right, you have the practices of editing files and copying text between files and redirecting output. So go ahead and do that as well. All right. So what we'll do is I will stop sharing this, and I will start sharing my other screen. All right. So now what you should be seeing is here is this CentOS. Right. Again, you should be able to do this using Red Hat as well. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple of different things. We're going to do the practice of editing files with Vim. We also will do the redirection and pipelines, some examples from that, so you can see how that works. And then we will also do that practice of copying text between windows, but that one should be pretty straightforward, and you should be used to that. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull up this student. Do we change that password? We changed the password, didn't we? All right, I know the password for my other username. I should go back and see the old password. I think it was testing time or something like that. I should go back and reset that password. Oops. All right, so here we have, I'm logged in. Right. So now what you can do is you can go up into this activities, right, and this is going to be where applications are. So I can look at all the different applications, right? And one of the applications you'll see, this will be a heads up, my text editor, right? This will be what will come up when I do that gedit command. Okay, so this is the application that gedit opens. Okay, so here if I pull up my terminal, okay, all right. So remember again, let's go back to the very first example from redirections. Okay, if I type date, ls, these are how we can see different stuff in here. Okay, so now I want to go into, let me do it this way. The example that's in the text is this temp save timestamp. Let me take that date command, and instead of redirecting that temp save timestamp, let me do, instead of an absolute path, I'm going to do a relative path, right? So I can do documents, and I could say new document, new date, right? Now, if I go into documents, right, and I do an ls here, notice there's my new date, right? So what if I wanted to say, okay, display, so I want to see what's inside of that new. Notice here, it's similar but not quite, right? Because why? Because the date the time changed a little bit between then and now, right? So cat displays what's inside of that file. And notice that if I say cat new date, I'm just basically concatenating the same file twice. And what concatenate does is it takes this, puts this to the end of it, and as long as I keep putting the files, it's going to look into that file, it's going to put it here. Okay. Now remember, cat puts this, where does it put it? It puts it to channel 1, right? The output to channel 1. Where does channel 1 point to right now? The screen, right? Let's see, you guys, somebody has a question, it looks like. Okay, I don't, well, thought somebody had a question. Okay, I guess not. Must be something else. Okay, another notification. All right, so what if we wanted to take at new date, and we want to output it to some other file. So maybe, maybe I want to put it up a level in, and then in a new file here called my file. Okay. Now notice what happened. New date doesn't exist here, but if I go up a level, right, up to my home directory, what's in here now? Oh, look, it's my file thing got created here. Well, what's in my file? Okay. The concatenation of new date 3 times is now in my file. So I redirected. What happened was cat wanted to send this to the terminal. It wanted to send this. It sent it to channel 1, which was pointed at the terminal. But I redirected it to this file location instead. Okay, so this is, so what if I want to say, okay, I want to take my file and I want to send it, I want to append it to documents, new date. So now what's going to happen? I'm going to take these 3 lines, I'm going to append them to new date. Well, it's in new date right now, already one of these, so I should see 4, right? I should see 4 of these when I'm done with this. So if I see what's in documents, new date, I should see 4 of them, right? Yep, there's 4. The original one plus the 3 more. Now if I do, let's see, date, append to documents, new date, right? And if I look at that again, now notice I have a new line at the end here. And then if I do this, but instead of append it, I just redirect it. And now I see what's in that new date file. It's just the 1 line there, right, of the current date and time. Okay, so this is some ways that we can use those redirection operators. Let's take a look at the pipeline as well. Okay, so let's take that ls-l/user. So this is what we would get if we did that ls-l, the user, the binary directory. Basically, this is like all the applications and stuff. Okay, that's a lot. Man. Wow, that's a lot to look through, right? It's a ton. Right? What if I wanted to see it in chunks instead? And that's what the less command can do. So if I take, if I were to take less, let's see, Like if I would look at my file and I did less my file, then it's kind of like this text editor, but it just shows me like a way to view. I did something. I thought it was quit, right? Okay, so I can go chunk by chunk and then hit Q to quit. Okay, so this is especially, it's not so useful for a situation like what I just used it for with the 3-line file, right? But for something with a lot, like if there were a file with all of this in it, in fact, let's do that. Let's go that ls command and let's redirect it to a file. Okay, let's redirect it to my file here again. So we're overwriting my file. So now if we look at less my file, right? So I can go down a little bit of, a chunk at a time, go page by page, and then I can find the one I want and then quit and I'm done, right? And it doesn't clunk up, it doesn't like put a bunch of output to my screen, right? I can just quit after that. But what if we didn't want to have to save it to a file first? We just want to take that ls command and we would like to send it to that less file. Okay, so here we do that to that less command. Okay, but well, wait a second. What happened there? Right, the output was sent to channel 1, and that was sent to the less command. But wait, the problem is that this was something went really wrong, right? What we can do is we pipeline it. Okay, because what happened was we sent this to less. Well, it's actually going to be what happened is created a file called less. Right. So we didn't do it. We didn't do this right. Right. How do we delete files? That's not good. Remove. That's right. So now we don't redirect to a file called less. What we want to do is we want to we want to display, we want to take the output of this and pipeline it as the input to this command. So now here, notice it's kind of the same thing, right? But instead of creating a file that then less uses to display, we just directly took the output and sent it directly into that less command. Okay, so hit Q to quit. All right. If we did ls, we get this, right? Again, we could put that into a file and then use the wc command to look at that. So maybe wc ls-l/user bin. We could wc count the number of lines in the my file thing, right? 1537. But if we didn't want to have to create that whole my file thing, we could do that ls-l, pipeline it into that wc command, and notice it's the same thing, right? But instead of being something called my file that we're counting the lines in, we're just counting the lines in the output of this command. Okay, so that's how we pipeline. That's how we can use that pipeline. But again, let's look at ls. We want to send it to the current directory. This is what's in /l. We want to send this information to a file, maybe a local file. We'll call it my file. We'll just overwrite my file. Okay. Right. And we would like to also display it using the less. Right? We would like to do this with one command. Okay. So the way we can do that is using that T, right? We would like to T it into the file, but at the same time display it as less. Okay, so let's see. Let's move my file. So we're going to take ls-l, pipeline it into the T command, and we're going to display it using less. So now here we see we displayed it using less, and we also see it in my file. All right, so it went both places. Notice before this, my file didn't exist. Now it does. Why? Because we took the output of this, which was this. We sent it into the T command that created the my file. Right? And we also took that same output and we passed it along to the less command as well. Okay. So if we look at ls-t, look at that user bin directory again. So if we take a look at that user, right? So again, we're changing it, we're setting it based on timestamp. So if we did ls, ls-t for the user bin, pipeline it into a head command, -n. See, this is the example from the text. And we pipeline that into the T command. Let's give it a local directory, my file T, so we can see it quickly. So this is the last 10 changed. 10. So again, let's walk through what happens here. Output normally would go to the screen, but we are sending it to the head command instead. The head is going to say, okay, look at the first 10 lines. So then the output of that normally would go to the screen, but instead we're pipelining it into the T command. The T command is going to send it into a file and send it on to the output of the screen. Okay. So if we look at it here, we should see 10 lines, the first 10 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we should also be able to see the same information in this file, which we do. Okay. All right. Again, if we said TTY, there. Okay. This tells us where the screen file is, the Okay, are we back? Let's see. Sorry, I don't know what happened. It bumped me off. Said that are we still recording? Yes, okay, good. It says we're still recording, so let's hope that this continues on. I'm not sure what just happened. The meeting said I didn't have internet, but everything else seemed to be working on the computer for internet purposes, so maybe it's a Microsoft Teams issue. I don't know. All right, but hopefully this is still recording, and so we can continue on. Let's see. Barack. Well, hopefully it's still recording, Barack. So then at least we'll have that. It says recording has started, meeting is being recorded. So hopefully it's still. I'm assuming you guys have a message similarly saying that this meeting is being recorded right now. All right. So assuming that it's still recording, let's go ahead and finish up what I was doing. This is the last thing that I had that I was showing. I'm assuming that's still the last thing that you saw as well, or at least was close to it. So if this is not right, if there was something else that you saw before this, where I was talking about this 10 last changed file stuff. So the way I walked through this quickly again was to take the list of the user bin directory, which we saw up here. We passed that as a pipeline. Instead of outputting that to the screen, we passed that to the head command, right, which would have put it here. We piped to the, normally that would also be put out to the screen. And so what happened was that pipeline was then sent to this T command, which one, put it out to here, but then also put it out to the screen as well. Okay, so here we see it on the screen, here we see it in the here what we were going through this TTY command to see what device file, what location we can send stuff this acts as the screen. Okay, so if we echo something to the screen, this is on the screen. If we redirect it to a file, if we were to redirect it to a file, such as my file, okay, if we then look at my file, we see this is on the screen. But what if we echoed it? What if we redirected it to this dev pts 0? What happens? It gets put on the screen. Why? Because this is the location for screen. Okay. So then let's have a little fun experiment here. What if we did echo? This is on the screen. And we pipelined it to a T command that said send that to the dev pts 0 location. What's going to happen? Well, none of you are on the call except for a couple of you guys. I see Barack is here. I see who else? Who's Ravan? Is that Ravan? Yeah. What happens here? Walk it through. What's going on? I don't want to just give the answer here. Well, let's walk it through. What does the pipeline do? The pipeline takes channel 1, normally would go to the screen, and sends it to here. What does T do? T takes its input, right, and both sends it out to this file location, but also sends it to the screen. So what happens? It's going to be sent to this file and to the screen, but this is the screen. What's going to happen? Let's see. Shows up twice, right? This one, it got sent out to the screen. This one, it got sent to this file location, which also happens to be the screen. Okay, so we could send it twice to the same location by using the T command. Because remember, what happens is when this T command happens, sorry, one second. When the T command happens, it splits it. It takes the same, what's input to the T command, it splits it into two places. One is to send it onto the screen. The other is to send it on to this location as well. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Okay. All right. Let's talk about that text editor, the vim command. Okay. What I want to do is I just want to do the practice for this. Okay. The guided exercise, right? Actually, let's just go through the vim. Okay. Is there a question? Comment? Yeah. Baytula, yeah, so I think a lot of students left because the teams had an issue of some kind. Like I said, you'll see this on the recording if you watch this. Is that when it kicked me off and it said there was a problem with the internet, but then when I looked at other things, my internet connection was fine. So I don't know what's going on. Brock, if we send it to the standard error, will show, right, so it would, but it would display to the screen. So if you send it to, I think what you're asking is if you send it to channel 2, is that what you're saying? The place that channel 2 points to. The thing is that, remember, channel 2 by default points to the screen, points to the terminal. I really need to not use the word screen, I need to use the word terminal. But for all practical purposes, they're the same. Okay, it depends on what you mean. So you can redirect channel 2 to a file as a log, and if there is an error that would normally go to channel 2, it will go to that file. But if what you mean is you send something to channel 2 that's not an error, right? So if I were to redirect my output to my channel 1 to channel 2, that would normally be an error. By default, channel 2 goes to the screen and goes to the terminal. Okay, so it depends on what you mean. If you send something to channel 2, it will go to the screen. If you send channel 2 to a file, any errors that happen will go to that file. Okay. I hope that clears that up for you. Okay. All right. So where was it? Where were we? All right. So let's talk about this Vim editor thing. So let's see. What do I have on? Let me see what files I have. Sorry. Let's do. Oh, no, I can't do that. Let's do this thing. I want to get a file that's big enough for me to work with the Vim editor on it. So, okay. Okay, so here, all right, let me go back for a second because I have this file that's somewhat big enough for me to mess with. Let me. Okay, I know this is going to be a bit confusing, but if we look at what's in my, I just want one file so it's not as confusing. So if we look at what's in my file, we'll see a number of lines. If this is on the screen, this is in the file. So I want to have just one file that looks like that. Okay, my file. Good. Because what I want to do is I want to say, okay, I'm going to edit my file using the Vim editor. Okay, so now you see we have this. It looks a lot like the less command, right? But we're actually able to edit this file. Now, right now, if I were to start trying to type, so I'm going to come down to this line, and I'm going to start trying to type. And the only reason it started typing was because I actually hit enter. I started typing this. And when I hit the I, it started going into insert. Okay. So let's escape out of that. So now these are the changes I've made. Now I could quit, right? And notice that if I go back in, no changes have been made, right? The reason why was because I quit without writing. I quit without saving. Okay. So now, let's do this. I'm in my Vim editor. Right now, I cannot F. So I hit W. Now, W is an advance to the next thing. I could hit E. E goes to the end. W goes to the next word at the beginning. R does nothing. Oh, R changed. Changed something. What? That's weird. Okay. But basically, I can't just type stuff. In order to make changes inside the file, I have to hit the I key. So if I type I, notice here down at the bottom, it says it's insert. I'm in the insert mode, which means now I can type like a normal text editor. So I can say this is on the screen. Not, right? Because it's not on the screen. This is not on the screen. So I need to, so I can type and make changes. Not. That's not where not goes, right? That's not right English. This is not on the screen, right? Okay. So I can type that is not on the screen. This is not in the file. This is not on the screen. Oh, wait, I messed up here. So now let me get out of here. Let me hit escape to go back to the main command window, the main command window of the Vim editor. Now what I noticed is I made a few changes, but oh, some of those were wrong. So if I hit the U, just the letter U, it's going to undo my change that I last made. If I hit U again, it's going to undo the last change that I made, right? Now that's useful, right? Okay, I can press U to undo stuff, okay, right? So now I can also in this command, if I wanted to delete a selection of text, right? So I could come to here, right? And I can use the X to delete text from the command window. This is not hitting the delete key. This is hitting the X key to delete things, right? I could do U again to undo my deletion, okay? Now, if I hit that colon, if I type colon, I can write, and if I hit enter, I saved my file. Right, so now my file is saved with this change put in place. If I hit colon WQ, write quit, then my then I'm not only going to save my file through writing, I'm also going to quit the Vim editor at the same time. Okay. All right. Now, so far, nothing I've talked about, nothing I've done with this Vim editor really is much better than a text editor that you're used to using. But this is where we're going to make some what's the word? This is where we're going to make some notes about things that are a little bit better. Okay, so now what I can do is I can take this, I can go to a certain line I want to be on. Okay, and now if I type the letter V, I'm going to be in what's called visual mode. Okay. Now I can use the arrow keys to highlight blocks and blocks of text, right? Okay. Now, what I can do is I can copy this whole section, 6 lines yanked, and then I can put it somewhere else. If I type the letter P, right, it goes here. Now notice what happened though. It put it after the character I was currently on. Maybe not exactly what I wanted to do, right? What I might have wanted to do is put it here. But oh, that's not quite right either. All right. But I can put it wherever. Now backspace, well, I just hit the backspace by the way. Backspace doesn't delete a character, it just moves it backwards. Okay. Right. Q still does the undo. So if I do Y, I'm doing visual mode. Y will I can yank this section of text, put it there. Oh, that's not where I'm going to put it. I put it there, right? Right. And notice that as I yank more, I can yank a single character. Oh, sorry. Mode, yank. And put so. That. This is kind of like copy and paste, basically is what this is. Okay. This is a way that we can use that Vim editor. The tutorial here, the practice editing files with Vim, the Vim tutor helps you use the Vim tutor to do what we've been talking about here, where we're able to yank and write and quit and all that kind of stuff. Okay, all right. But again, you're probably more used to. Oh, let me get out of here. Quit. All right. You're probably more used to a text editor, right? So let's go ahead and do that one. Right. Let's use the graphical editor instead. Okay. So if we have gedit, now what's going to happen is it's going to open this my file in this text editor, right? The text editor program. And looks just like Notepad, all right? So you're used to this. This isn't much different than anything you've used before, right? Let me just, I want it. There. Okay. All right. So what we can do is we can, if we close the side. So what we want to do is we want to copy and paste text from the command line into maybe this file over here, right? So we can do, we'll need a new terminal. One thing that this does bring up in this situation is notice that because I opened the text editor through the command window, I could have done it here, right? I could have opened up a text editor using this and then opened my file there, right? I could have done it that way. Because I opened the text editor using the gedit command in the terminal window, it is now a running process. This is considered a running process inside of here. Okay, so I can't run other commands in here right now. But what I can do is I can open up, and in fact, let me show you something here. If I were to save and quit, okay, if I go back over to this terminal window, notice now that is done, right? As long as I've got this editor open, I cannot use this command window to run other commands. It is a running process inside of this terminal. Okay. I can take this off here. I can save it. I can close it. It does here. I can run that again, and the changes are still there. Okay. So if I want to be able to copy stuff from another command window, let's see, over here. I want to be able to maybe run the example in the lab here is plus. Some different formatting for the dates, right? So here we have, this was the result of that date command. I didn't pipeline it anywhere, right? I didn't change it, I just put it out to the screen. So here it's Friday, October 23rd, that's right. Okay, we can highlight this, right? Can highlight that text, right? And what we want to do is we want to put this at the, we want to put this at the top of our text document. Right? So what we can do is we can say copy is one option. We can right click on it and then switch over to our text document, put our cursor here at the very beginning and hit Control V. And there it is. Okay, that's one way that we can do it. Right. Right. Oh, there's also this middle mouse button that you can also use. But Control V works. We could have also right clicked. If we also come over here and there's no cursor, there it is. Right click, we can paste, right? Take this, copy, what is that? Copy there. Read, paste. One of the things that later on in this course we'll talk through more about the Vim editor that what is it I'm thinking of? Talks more about the Vim editor and how powerful it can be in other circumstances. Right. For now, we just wanted to get an introduction into it. Now, again, these two are connected, right? This and this are connected. What happens if I close out this? Do you think the graphic editor is going to close also? There is still a process running in this terminal. Closing the terminal will kill it. Well, what's the process running in the terminal? What's the process running in the terminal? It's the gedit command, which opened this up. So let's take a look at what would happen here. What I want to do is I want to save this. Okay. I want to delete all of this. Okay. I'm going to delete all that, but I'm not going to save it. So now I'm going to close this and see what happens. Close it. My text editor went away because the process that kept it open got killed. If I then look at my file, notice here at the top, all that stuff is still there, right? Because it wasn't saved. Okay, this is one of those things that that was very much more important for those of us who used Microsoft Word and other things like this years and years ago, because the computer power would go out and you would lose all your changes. Nowadays with Microsoft Word, you know, it does auto saving and stuff like that. But the main thing I wanted to use that as an example for was, so these changes, deleting that stuff out there, they were not saved before the program crashed, basically. So the process was killed because the terminal running the process ended, right? So it killed the process, which meant it closed out that file and it didn't save my changes. Okay? So when you go to kill a process like that, if anything has not been completed, and anything has not been written, anything has not been saved, and the process closes out, then you lose those changes. Okay? All right. I think that covers everything that we needed to do today. Again, go through the lab activity, right? Let me make sure. I want to make sure. Okay. Okay. Yep. Go ahead and go through the lab activity, and if you have any questions, if you have any comments, again, you have about 40 minutes left that we have allotted for this class. So go ahead and perform that lab activity and see what you understand from this about how to edit files, about how to redirect output, about how to do stuff like that. Okay. Again, if you have any questions, contact me and we can work through it. But other than that, so we're scheduled to not have class next week because of the holiday on Thursday. Okay, so enjoy the holiday, and but go ahead and still do the assignment because the assignment's due at the beginning of that next week. So go ahead and do the assignment, and if you have any questions about that, get started on it earlier rather than later. So if you have any questions, you can contact me. Okay. Thanks for attending. Sorry about the hiccup. I hope the recording still did saved and everything's fine with that. I'll check it out here as soon as this class is over. All right. Have a good weekend.